The day my younger sister walked into my house carrying 3 elegant gift boxes, I thought she had only brought souvenirs from Paris. I had no idea those gifts would expose the painful truth about my own son and change the rest of my life forever. My name is Evelyn. I was a 68-year-old widow living a quiet life in Savannah, Georgia. My days were simple. I spent my mornings tending my garden, afternoons at the library, and evenings alone in the house my late husband and I had built together. My sister Claire had lived in Europe for decades, and every visit felt like a breath of fresh air. This time she surprised me with extraordinary presents. Inside the boxes were a rare designer handbag, a luxury Swiss watch, and a vintage perfume that no longer existed anywhere in the world. I protested because I believed those beautiful things belonged in glamorous places, not with an old woman who barely left town. Claire smiled and reminded me that beautiful gifts belong to the person they were given to, not to a certain lifestyle. 2 days later, my son Daniel arrived with his wife Vanessa. The moment Vanessa noticed the handbag, her entire expression changed. She admired it with the kind of excitement she had never shown toward me. Daniel examined the watch and immediately estimated its value. Instead of being happy for me, they exchanged quiet glances that made my stomach tighten. Within minutes, they began explaining why someone my age had no use for expensive possessions. They insisted I was too old, too forgetful, and too vulnerable to own such valuable items. Daniel calmly packed the watch and perfume inside the handbag and announced they would keep everything in their home safe. He claimed Vanessa could wear the bag to charity events while he wore the watch to important meetings. According to him, they were simply protecting my investment. I stood frozen as if I had suddenly become invisible inside my own home. The gifts had been given to me, yet my own son acted as though my opinion no longer mattered. Claire immediately stepped forward and firmly reminded them that every gift belonged to me and only me. Daniel laughed and expected me to agree with him like I always had. For years, I had stayed quiet whenever he dismissed my feelings because I believed keeping peace was more important than winning arguments. But something inside me finally broke. I looked him straight in the eyes and told him to put everything back exactly where he found it. When he refused, I ordered both of them to leave my house immediately. Vanessa called me selfish and ridiculous, while Daniel warned me not to expect his help when I grew older. I simply opened the front door and watched them walk away. That night I cried, not because of the handbag, but because I finally realized my son no longer saw me as his mother. He saw me as an inheritance waiting to be collected. Claire quietly sat beside me and said something I would never forget. She told me I had not lost my son that evening. I had only stopped pretending he was still the little boy I remembered. The following morning, we visited my attorney. I rewrote my entire will. Daniel was removed as executor and no longer stood to inherit my estate. Instead, I arranged for my home to be sold after my death and the money used to create scholarships for women rebuilding their lives later in life. Daniel would receive only a family Bible, hoping one day he would understand its meaning better than its value. Claire then surprised me again by handing me 2 first-class tickets to Paris. For the first time in decades, I chose myself instead of everyone else. I packed the handbag, the watch, and the perfume, changed every lock on my house, and left a note telling Daniel not to wait for me because I intended to spend whatever years I had left truly living. Paris transformed me. I carried the handbag through quiet streets, wore the watch every day, and discovered that confidence had nothing to do with age. Weeks later, Daniel sent worried emails. At first, he demanded answers, then apologized, and finally admitted his marriage was falling apart. I responded politely but refused to rush home. For once, my life did not revolve around fixing his mistakes. 6 months later, I returned to Savannah. Daniel appeared at my front door looking older and defeated. His marriage had ended, his career was struggling, and the confidence that once fueled his arrogance had disappeared. Sitting together on my porch, he admitted he had treated me like a bank instead of a mother. His apology sounded sincere, but trust is not repaired with words alone. I told him I was willing to build a new relationship, but it would happen on my terms. The timid woman he once controlled no longer existed. As he drove away, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror while holding the same handbag that had nearly torn my family apart. It was never about luxury or money. Those gifts simply revealed who valued me for my heart and who valued me for my possessions. Losing my old life felt painful, but finding my self-respect was worth every single tear. Sometimes the greatest inheritance we leave behind is not money. It is teaching people that love can never survive where entitlement takes its place.